You have asked me another question. You have asked me, where did Jesus say, I am God? And where did he say, worship me? This is the question I want to answer in this video. And I want to address it with one passage from the Bible. So you can open your Bible and read with me Matthew 12, the verses 38 to 45. I will read the New International Version, but any translation that you understand is a good translation. Unfortunately, the Pashto translation is very old. I don't know if you have access to a Pashto translation. As far as I know, in the next years, a new Pashto translation will appear. This is good news for you. Yes, I read Matthew 12 from verse 38. Then some of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law said to him, Teacher, we want to see a sign from you. He answered, A wicked and adulterous generation asks for a sign, but none will be given it except the sign of Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the huge fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Then the men of Nineveh will stand up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. For they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and now something greater than Jonah is here. The queen of the south will rise at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. For she came from the end of the earth to listen to Solomon's wisdom, and now something greater than Solomon is here. This is the passage. The last verse was 42, not 45. So what has happened here in this passage? Before Jesus said these words, he has healed a demon-possessed man. And then a discussion arose by which authority Jesus has healed this demon-possessed man, and by which authority he has driven out the evil spirit. And there were some leaders of the Jewish society which made the people believe that Jesus cast out the demon by the power of Satan. Jesus contradicts and he proves that it is not possible to drive out Satan by the power of Satan. This is simply not logical. And now these same rulers of the Jewish society question Jesus' authority, his divine authority. And this is what the discussion is about. So they challenge Jesus, the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, they challenge Jesus and ask him, show us a sign. Who were the Pharisees? It was the most religious people in the Jewish society. They were very religious and they were eager to obey the law and to do everything that the law requires and to do even more, because they thought it's better to do a little bit more than a little bit less. And they also believed if whole Israel would keep the law one single day completely, then the Messiah would come. This was their idea. It's not written in their scriptures in the Old Testament. This was their ideas. And then there were the teachers of the law. They were the theologians of this time, very powerful people. They knew the scriptures. And people would think if they say something religious, they know what they are talking about. I think you know all of this. So these two very mighty groups and also respected groups, they challenge Jesus to show a sign and to prove his divine authority. And this is really a little bit kind of strange, because they just have seen a sign how a demon-possessed man was healed from this evil spirit, how an evil spirit was cast out, and this, let me read how it was, how this blind and mute man suddenly was healed and could speak and see. Yeah. But they don't believe the first sign, and they ask for a new one, a sign that they ask for, and a sign that they would accept. They ask for an acceptable sign, and the first one they regarded as invalid for some reason. I don't know which reason. And the most interesting part of the story is how Jesus addresses this challenge. He just doesn't accept the challenge. He says, no, there won't be any sign. Why? Was Jesus not able to do one more sign? Of course he was. He is the Son of Man. He is on this earth with divine power. Of course he could do one more sign. And he has done much more signs, but not in this situation. Why? Because Jesus doesn't have to prove anything to these people. And he is not taking their agenda. Jesus is the Lord, and he is doing signs, and he proves his authority the way he thinks is right. And he does not accept other people to tell him what he has to prove and in which way. And why do I tell you this story? Because it is the same with you. You know exactly why you answered this question, and that it is actually the wrong question. The right question would be, how did Jesus claim to be God or the Son of God? I could give you many examples, but you would not accept them because you want these very words, I am God, worship me. And you know that Jesus did not say these words. I can give you a reason for this. You could, for example, ask me, why did Jesus never say, I am God, worship me? In these words, I can give you an answer to this. Although it's a matter of speculation, honestly said. But you ask this very question and you know it's not adequate. Jesus has claimed to be God in different words, and actually this was the reason why he was crucified. He was crucified because he has made himself God. This was what the Jews said and why they wanted him to be crucified, and they did crucify him. If you ask me why do I believe that Jesus is God, there is many reasons for this. Jesus claimed it himself, and God gave evidence. God the Father spoke in public and said, this is my beloved Son. And the prophets said that Jesus would come, and they gave many characters of Jesus before he came, and Jesus applied these characters and also these titles to himself. Jesus was announced by angels, which said that this is the one to come. And the most important evidence that Jesus is God is his resurrection from the dead. If Jesus was not God, so God would never have allowed a man who claims to be God to rise from the dead and to prove his claim. God would never have allowed Jesus to rise from the dead if his claims were not true. But they were true. And Jesus rose from the dead, and he proved that he was actually God. I can give you many evidence. I can give you Bible verses. I can give you other videos where apologists give answer to this question. And I think you have heard many answers to this. But I want to tell you that you're not in the position to ask for a specific proof. God has given you a proof. If you want to believe, you can believe. If you don't want to believe, you don't have to believe. But you are the one who will bear the consequences. It's your responsibility. It's not God's responsibility to prove Jesus' divinity in the way you ask for it. Because you're not God. You're not in the position to ask or to demand. You are dependent on God. You are dependent on the revelation that God grants you, and you have to be grateful and thankful for the revelation that we have. You cannot say, "Oh God, you have given me this revelation and you have given me this sign, but well, do you know, I don't like it, I want a different one." You don't have the right to do this. You can do this with me, but you cannot do this with God. I can do only one thing. I can tell you about the revelation that God has given. I cannot create a new one. And I ask you, consider the revelation that God has given, because this is the only revelation that you will receive. He will not give you a different one. Thank you.